Welcome to Never Forgotten, where Ashley pays tribute to extraordinary lives that continue to live on through memory and meaning. This channel honors beloved figures from film, music, culture, and beyond, reflecting on their impact, their achievements, and the inspiration they shared. Together, we remember their stories and celebrate legacies that time can never erase. Carol Dawson devoted nearly 3 decades to professional basketball, becoming a respected figure within the Houston Rockets organization. Born in Texas in 1938, Dawson first made his mark as a player at Paris Junior College before starring at Baylor University, where his strong inside game earned him all Southwest Conference honors. After his playing days, he moved into coaching and front office roles, eventually serving as the Rockets' general manager. Known for his sharp eye for talent and deep understanding of the game, Dawson contributed to the development of competitive Houston teams for many years. He remained with the organization until stepping away in 2007. Dawson died at 86, with his cause of death not publicly disclosed. His legacy lives on through the players, teams, and basketball community he helped shape throughout his remarkable career. Randolph Manto, the actor best known for his role in the 1970s medical drama Emergency / Mind Day, died on July 9, 2026, at a hospice facility in Ventura, California. The series helped introduce millions of viewers to the emerging world of paramedics and emergency medical services, making Manto part of a show that had a lasting influence on television and public awareness. Beyond acting, he became a strong supporter of emergency service professionals. Manto was a life member of the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians and served as a spokesperson for the International Association of Firefighters. His advocacy reflected a genuine connection to the people and profession he portrayed on screen. He is remembered not only for his television work, but also for using his public platform to support emergency responders and honor their vital role in communities. Don Iwerks, a pioneering special effects artist and longtime Disney figure, died on July 9, 2026, at the age of 96. He became known for developing innovative technologies that transformed theme park experiences, including Circle Vision 360 degrees, which allowed visitors to feel surrounded by moving images. His work helped bring attractions such as America the Beautiful and the Timekeeper to life. Iwerks later founded Iwerks Entertainment, where he continued developing advanced visual technology, including 3D systems used for attractions such as Captain EO and T2 3D, Battle Across Time. Before building his remarkable career in entertainment technology, he served in the U.S. Army as a photographer during the Korean War. Iwerks leaves behind a legacy of creativity and innovation, remembered for helping audiences experience storytelling in completely new and immersive ways. Charlie Lane Johnson was an American football player whose life extended far beyond the field. Born in 1938, he began his journey as a quarterback at New Mexico State before spending 15 seasons in the NFL, with teams including the St. Louis Cardinals, Houston Oilers, and Denver Broncos. Known for his calm leadership, accurate passing, and thoughtful decision-making, Johnson earned respect throughout his career. What made his story especially unusual was what came afterward. Rather than stepping away from professional achievement, he moved into academia and became a professor of chemical engineering, building a second career in a completely different world. Johnson died at 85, leaving behind a legacy that crossed both athletics and science. His journey remains a powerful example of how talent can take different forms and how a person's ambitions can continue evolving long after one chapter ends. Jean-Claude Van Damme became something Hollywood rarely produces, a performer whose physical presence alone could define an entire era. Later celebrated as the Muscles from Brussels, he transformed extraordinary athleticism into a cinematic language of balance, speed, pain, and grace. As Frank Dux in Bloodsport, he turned martial arts into poetry. In Kickboxer, he made discipline and fury inseparable, and in Double Impact, he multiplied his own mythology by playing two fighters in the same story. His famous splits, lightning-fast kicks, and controlled movements became images permanently attached to action cinema. But long before the applause, there was a frightened boy in Belgium, staring at himself through thick glasses. Jean-Claude Camille François van Varenberg was born on October 18, 1960, near Brussels, in a modest family home. His father, Eugène, worked as an accountant, while his mother, Eliana, was a florist. His childhood seemed ordinary from the outside, but inside, insecurity was already taking root, forged through pain. At 11, Van Damme looked into the mirror and saw a child he believed the world considered weak. His thin frame, glasses, and youthful appearance made him an easy target for ridicule. The laughter of other children became something he carried privately, turning embarrassment into a pressure that eventually demanded an answer. His father recognized that discipline might give his son a different way to understand himself, and enrolled him in martial arts training. Under the demanding guidance of Claude Goetz, Van Damme spent years learning karate, enduring repetition until technique became instinct. By 18, he had earned a black belt in Shotokan karate and represented Belgium competitively. But martial arts alone did not satisfy him. He also entered ballet, a choice that surprised people around him. For 5 years, he trained at the bar, developing flexibility, balance, posture, and control. Ballet taught him something combat training could not. Strength was not simply about force, it was about precision. Bodybuilding completed the transformation, and in 1978 he won the title of Mr. Belgium. 3 impossible wishes. There was another side to the young Van Damme that physical training could not explain. Around the age of 12, unable to sleep one night, he reportedly entered a church alone and quietly made 3 wishes. He wanted to save the world, protect nature, and become a movie star. The dreams sounded impossibly large for a boy from a quiet Belgian neighborhood, but they became private promises that survived years of rejection. His ambitions were never simply about becoming muscular or famous. He wanted to escape the identity others had assigned to him. Every training session became an argument against that identity. Every painful stretch, every exhausting repetition, and every hour spent developing his body seemed to say that the boy in the mirror was not finished yet. The discipline also created a dangerous contradiction. The stronger he became physically, the more he expected from himself emotionally. He was learning to ignore discomfort because discomfort had always been familiar. That ability would later help him survive Hollywood, but it would also make it harder for him to recognize when endurance itself had become destructive. The American Gamble. In 1982, Van Damme left Belgium and traveled to the United States with roughly $3,000. He arrived carrying enormous ambition, but almost no professional security. Hollywood offered no guarantee that his body, accent, or martial arts ability would translate into a career. He struggled to communicate in English and discovered that physical talent did not automatically open studio doors. For periods, survival became more important than dreams. He slept in cramped conditions, accepted food wherever he could find it, and took jobs far removed from acting. He delivered pizzas, installed flooring, drove limousines, and worked as a nightclub bouncer. One of those jobs placed him at Woody's Wharf, a bar associated with Chuck Norris. The irony was difficult to miss. He was protecting other people while dreaming about becoming the man on the screen who protected audiences. Meanwhile, auditions accumulated and opportunities disappeared. Rejection became routine. Yet every morning, he continued stretching, training, and forcing his body toward impossible flexibility. He had little money, but he still possessed the one thing nobody could take from him: belief, the first glimpse. His earliest screen appearances were small enough that audiences could easily overlook them. In 1984, he appeared in Breakin', where his physical ability briefly surfaced. He also became involved with Chuck Norris's stunt team, while working on Missing in Action. These opportunities did not make him famous, but they gave him something more important: evidence that he belonged somewhere near a film set. In 1986, he earned a more substantial role as Ivan in No Retreat, No Surrender. The movie was modest, but for Van Damme, being visible was everything. The journey from Belgium had already required enormous sacrifice, and now the camera was finally beginning to notice what years of training had created. Still, Hollywood remained unpredictable. He was not yet a star, and nothing suggested that international fame was guaranteed. Then came the project that would change the direction of his life. Bloodsport was made on a relatively small budget, but its combination of martial arts, tournament spectacle, and Van Damme's physical charisma created something audiences had not seen in quite the same way before. The boy who had once been ignored was about to become impossible to ignore. Bloodsport explodes. When Bloodsport reached audiences in 1988, Jean-Claude Van Damme erupted onto the action scene. Playing Frank Dux, he combined athleticism with a screen presence that felt completely different from the heavier action heroes dominating the period. His movements were fast, elegant, and almost balletic. The famous splits became a signature, but they were only part of the attraction. Van Damme could make violence look choreographed rather than chaotic, giving audiences the sensation that every movement had been designed with mathematical precision. The film became a major commercial success and transformed its leading man from an unknown Belgian hopeful into an international action star. For Van Damme, the success carried emotional weight because it represented the final answer to years of rejection. He had once been sleeping in cars and wondering whether anyone would ever give him a chance. Now millions of people were watching him. Kickboxer followed and strengthened his reputation, while Lionheart, Death Warrant, and Double Impact continued the momentum. In Double Impact, he played twin brothers, proving that audiences were willing to accept him not only as an athlete, but as a personality capable of carrying an entire movie. The peak, the early 1990s, became Van Damme's golden period. Universal Soldier placed him opposite Dolph Lundgren and demonstrated that he could compete with Hollywood's established action stars. Time Cop went even further, becoming one of his biggest commercial successes and showing that he could lead a major studio production. His popularity spread beyond individual movies. His name became shorthand for a particular kind of action cinema: spectacular kicks, impossible flexibility, stoic determination, and a hero who could absorb punishment before delivering the final blow. He became a global celebrity whose physical image appeared on magazine covers, posters, and merchandise. His earnings increased dramatically, and Hollywood had transformed the once struggling immigrant into one of the most recognizable action stars of his generation. Even video games reflected his influence, with characters such as Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat carrying echoes of his swagger and visual identity. Yet success created a new problem. Van Damme had spent years fighting to become visible, but now the entire world was watching. Every mistake became public. Every personal weakness became harder to hide. The same spotlight that confirmed his dream also illuminated everything he had hoped to keep private. Fame has a price. Behind the cameras, the relentless schedule began taking a toll. Van Damme worked constantly, moving between sets, countries, interviews, promotional appearances, and personal obligations. The lifestyle that once represented freedom gradually became another form of pressure. He has spoken about how working too much affected his family life, and the contradiction was painful. He had crossed an ocean because he wanted to become a movie star, yet achieving that dream created circumstances in which the people closest to him could feel abandoned. The image of the invincible action hero concealed exhaustion, emotional instability, and a growing distance between professional success and personal fulfillment. The more successful he became, the more difficult it was to slow down. Fame brought money and admiration, but neither could guarantee peace. The man audiences saw delivering perfect kicks was also someone carrying unresolved wounds from childhood, years of rejection, and the immense psychological burden of maintaining an image of strength. Hollywood rewarded him for appearing unstoppable. Life demanded something different, the ability to admit when he was no longer in control. The first marriage, Van Damme's personal history, became complicated long before he reached the summit of Hollywood. In 1980, when he was 20, he married Maria Rodriguez. At that stage, his life was still rooted in Belgium, and the future had not yet become the international spectacle it would later be. Their relationship represented a quieter possibility, stability, companionship, and a life that existed outside the relentless pursuit of fame. But Van Damme's ambition was already pulling him toward America. In 1982, he left Belgium to chase his dream, and distance gradually weakened the marriage. The relationship eventually ended after several years. The separation was not simply the end of a romance. It became an early lesson in the cost of ambition. Van Damme wanted a future that required extraordinary sacrifice, but sacrifice rarely affects only the person making it. The people standing closest to the dream can be wounded by it as well. His first marriage ended before Hollywood made him famous, but the emotional pattern would remain significant throughout his later relationships. The pursuit of success had begun, leaving personal casualties behind: love and luxury. After arriving in America and beginning to establish himself, Van Damme entered another marriage, this time with Cynthia Derderian. Her background was considerably different from the struggling life he was experiencing in Los Angeles. Yet fame was still distant, and Van Damme remained consumed by the need to prove himself. The relationship lasted only a short time, ending in 1984. By then, his professional circumstances were beginning to change, but his personal life remained unstable. The contrast between his expanding ambitions and his fragile relationships would become a recurring feature of his story. Each new chapter seemed to offer the possibility that he had finally found balance, only for the demands of his career and his own struggles to interfere. As his profile grew, relationships became more complicated because fame itself changed the environment around him. Privacy disappeared, temptation increased, and the pressure to maintain an image became enormous. The world wanted the confident martial arts hero. Real life contained a man still trying to understand himself. The distance between those two identities would eventually become one of his greatest challenges: shadows behind the spotlight. The same period that brought Van Damme enormous professional success also exposed him to problems that could not be defeated with training. Substance abuse became part of his struggle, and his personal life became increasingly turbulent. Multiple marriages followed, each adding another chapter to a complicated emotional history. His relationships with women, family members, colleagues, and the public became subjects of attention, while his own behavior sometimes intensified the scrutiny. There were scandals, public controversies, and periods when his career appeared vulnerable. The physical discipline that had once rescued him from insecurity could not solve addiction. A perfect split could not repair trust. A successful opening weekend could not erase loneliness. The distinction between the character and the man became increasingly important. On screen, Van Damme could always recover before the final scene. In real life, consequences did not disappear when the credits rolled. He eventually had to confront the possibility that the greatest enemy was not another fighter, another villain, or another studio demanding a performance. It was the part of himself that had learned to survive through denial, excess, and relentless forward motion. The warrior remains today. Jean-Claude Van Damme stands at an age when the mythology surrounding his younger years has inevitably changed. At 65, the body that once seemed almost superhuman carries the history of decades of training, filming, injuries, success, failure, relationships, and recovery. The world no longer needs him to prove that he can perform an impossible kick. His greatest story has already been written across generations of action cinema, but the more meaningful story lies beneath the famous images. It is about a boy who believed he was too small, a young man who crossed an ocean with almost nothing, an immigrant who endured rejection until one movie finally opened the door, and a star who discovered that achieving a dream does not automatically solve the wounds that created it. Van Damme's legacy is therefore larger than Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Time Cop, or Universal Soldier. It belongs to anyone who has ever been underestimated and decided to keep moving anyway. The screen made him look invincible. Life taught him that being strong sometimes means admitting where you are broken. Beyond the muscles, Jean-Claude Van Damme's life ultimately became more complicated than the legend Hollywood created around him. He was the, quote, muscles from Brussels, but muscle was never the whole story. Behind every famous kick stood years of insecurity, discipline, sacrifice, and obsession. Behind every successful film stood countless mornings when nobody believed he belonged there. Behind every applause-filled premiere existed memories of hunger, rejection, fractured relationships, and battles that could not be choreographed. His story is compelling precisely because the hero never remained entirely heroic, and the struggle never ended when fame arrived. The dream he whispered inside a Belgian church came true in spectacular fashion, but reality demanded a price he could not have understood at 12. He became a global action icon, yet he also became a man forced to confront addiction, broken trust, emotional exhaustion, and the consequences of choices made while chasing success. At 65, the most powerful image of Van Damme may no longer be the impossible split or the perfectly timed kick. It may simply be the image of a survivor standing after the fight, no longer pretending that every battle can be won with strength alone.